I'm Joe Dixon, and joining me today is Simon Longstaff, Executive Director at the Ethics Centre. Thank you for joining us, Simon.
It's a pleasure to be with you, Joe.
Today we're talking about the place of professions in society. And when we use the term professional, we often talk about work of a very high quality, but working in a profession actually has a specific meaning. Can you explain what that is, please?
So the professions play a very distinct role in a society. They have a vital role, in fact, to try and help moderate excesses, whether it's in politics, in business, right across society. And the thing that is so distinctive of the choice that a person makes when they join a profession is that they decide to do two things. Firstly, rather than merely satisfy wants, which is what typically happens in the marketplace, they serve interests. And secondly, they subordinate their own self-interest so that it's right at the bottom of considerations compared to duties they owe to others, to the public, to their client and so forth. So the marketplace is typically satisfying wants driven by self-interest, and the professions are serving the interests of others by subordinating your own.
Can you take us back a little bit and talk about some of the historical origins of professions?
Yeah, the earliest days of the professions really can be traced back, certainly within the European context and probably around the world, to those people who used to act with a sense of vocation. So I suppose the most familiar case you'd find would be, for example, nuns and monks working in hospitals where they had a religious commitment through a religious vocation to providing charitable services to people, whether it was in the area of health or education or some other good that they were providing to society. And that's essential because what they were doing by following a religious vocation was not actually seeking to advance their own interests, but rather serving some higher good, and namely recognising the needs of others and then making sure that they were met. And so you see over a period of time that the professions progress out of that early stage to be what they are now.
So really, when people are thinking about entering into a profession, they're thinking not just about the work that they're going to do, but also their place in society and how they're going to be compensated. So can you touch on that?
Oh, well, compensation's part of it. But
yeah.
So certainly when you make a decision, let's suppose you're really reflecting about this. You say, I want to be a member of a profession. You're doing some very profound things. You're saying, firstly, I'm going to start to serve the interests of others. Secondly, I'm going to subordinate my own interest. And I expect that in doing so, that society will accord to me certain recognition and certain benefits because I have stepped outside of the logic of the market, which in fact is the complete opposite. It's where you merely satisfy wants and pursue your own self-interest. And society's seen the advantage of the profession, so it says, well, we'll accord you respect. We will reserve certain areas of work that only you can do. And typically it ensures that there is adequate remuneration for a person to sustain themselves in a lifestyle. Not always the wealthiest, but a basically good lifestyle. So if you think about, say, a doctor, then they are typically respected in our society, they're well educated, they are able to do certain things that no one else can do, and they're reasonably well remunerated compared, say, to others.
So probably our newest profession is financial planning. So what can current and new entrants in this profession expect?
Well, I think firstly to gain a number of the benefits that I mentioned that society will accord to any profession. Recognition, reservation of certain things that only they can do. And the law has now recognised, say for example, that the term financial planner or advisor can only be used by people within that profession. And of course, adequate remuneration. Now, this is of course going to be a challenge to some people who are coming from a quite different background, because they may want those benefits without necessarily being prepared to make some of the challenging decisions that you have to take on board as you move from a market-based activity into a professional activity. But that's what's on offer. But I think the other thing too is, financial advisors deal with far more than just technical questions to do with a person's financial interests. They deal with them as a whole human being. They have to deal with things like family balancing and inheritance and a whole lot of ethical questions that are very similar, if you like, to what a doctor is dealing with. I mean, most GPs, they're not sitting in their surgery just diagnosing disease and prescribing drugs. They're talking to a whole person. And financial advisors are progressively going to be recognised, I think, as performing an equivalent role in society. And that will, I think, be a source of intrinsic satisfaction, and as things even out, it'll also be a great way to earn a living.
Thank you for joining us.
Pleasure.